She was already under arrest. Her 6-year-old son, James Hutchinson, was gone. And now, sitting in an interrogation room, Brittany Gosney faced a lie detector test and one last chance to stick to her story. The examiner doesn't come in hot. He comes in calm, almost comforting.
Good morning. Good morning. You already got something to drink. My name's Scott, and I'll be giving you a polygraph. Let me first say I'm sorry for your loss. You know, what a tragedy. And sorry we've gone through this, and I just can't imagine. I got 3 kids of my own, and I don't know what you're going through, and hopefully we can figure that out together, because obviously this isn't like you. You got 3 kids, so something went wrong, something happened, and my job is to get another statement from you, giving you a polygraph, and hopefully you pass that polygraph. If you work with me as a team, you will, and we can say this is what happened. There's no more need for speculation, because that's what people do in situations like this, is they speculate that maybe there's something more to this. But by working together, you and I will be able to show that no, there's nothing more to this. This is really what happened. Okay? Does that sound like a good plan? You gonna work with me? All right, awesome. Like I said, I am so sorry for your loss. That's just a terrible thing.
But that sympathy? That's bait. And Brittany, she's biting. She doesn't even know how deep she's about to go, or if she believes her own story anymore.
So basically, this will help me in the long run, too?
The tone is still soft, but the message is clear. We don't believe a word you say. They are just pleading with her. Let us find his body. Let us put him to rest.
Well, it'll help say this is the truth, because you've changed the story a few times. Because we went from he's just missing to...
Yes, because that's what the other person told me to tell.
Right. So finally we'll be able to say this is the truth. You know, she's being honest. She's an honest person. We can trust her.
Then she drops it. The first major shift. Suddenly, she's not the decision maker. James Hamilton is pulling the strings.
Why don't you tell me what happened? I don't want to put any words in your mouth. I want you to just tell a story to me. And then I'll have some questions about that story.
Okay. It was Friday going into Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Me and the boyfriend was having an argument.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the kids were...
And the boyfriend's name is?
James.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to put his last name, because they're both...
Yeah, better, James.
Hamilton.
Hamilton, okay.
We were having an argument. He was complaining that I constantly don't discipline my children.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd rather not.
Right.
I'd rather just make them stand in the corner for a few
Mm-hmm.
than putting my hands on my children.
Right.
And he told me I needed to get rid of them.
Okay.
And he's been telling me this since we moved in there.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the blame game starts. And Brittany's pointing the finger straight at Hamilton, still taking no responsibility. Not even a flicker of guilt. What comes next? It's gut-wrenching, and it's extremely hard to hear. Viewer discretion advised.
So, I took him to Rush Run Lake.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 older kids had gotten out, which is...
All right.
James was still in the back seat,
Mm-hmm.
acting like he was asleep, and he wasn't.
All right.
I took him out, set him on the ground. He stood up,
Mm-hmm.
and he kept trying to get back in the van because the doors slide, and you just pull the door handle to get in. He kept trying to get back in the van. The doors automatically lock.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see. I know he had the handle,
Right.
trying to get back in,
Mm-hmm.
because he kept saying, "Mom, you don't want to be here."
All right.
Basically, he's a baby. He's scared.
Right.
No, I did not want to take him nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
but he was insisting nonstop.
When you say he was insisting nonstop, we're talking about James Hamilton.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, he has a kid of his own, so I don't understand how he's not mentally stabilized for kids.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyways, I told them to go towards the bathroom, so I didn't run them over, none of that.
Right.
So I knew where they were at, and I knew they were safe. Well, the elder two went towards the bathroom like I asked, the older two. James refused to because he went back in the van because he was scared, and he didn't want to be there.
Right.
He had a door handle, and I took off, not realizing that he had the handle.
Right.
And I didn't take off far. I showed him on the map. I didn't get all the way out to the main road. But I had dragged him. I heard a little noise. I didn't hear a thump or anything like I ran him over.
Did you feel a bump?
No. But what I'm thinking is I dragged him, and then eventually I didn't run him over because I didn't hear a thump or like the van lifted up on one side, because I ran over animals that's already dead in the road, so I know what it feels like. So I didn't feel that when I was driving or anything. So eventually he had to let go of the handle.
And when that doesn't land, she asks her daughter to back her up.
And my daughter said that I didn't run him over, because I asked her, did y'all see me run him over? She said, I seen what you was doing, Mom, you didn't run him over.
This isn't just a tragic mistake. It's a full-on cover-up. And Brittany continues to say it was James Hamilton leading the charge.
I told him we need to tell somebody, not just let him lay there. Because I've watched the Law and Order shows and all of that. And I knew it wasn't right just to leave him laying up there. Well, he had took him up there. He said we had 2 to 3 days to get rid of the body. Because I know nothing about dead people's bodies, none of that. So he went upstairs. We had a heat rolling because we were cold. And the children kept saying they were freezing. So we turned on the heat. He went up there and said this is what he told me. He went up there and blocked off the heat.
Try to keep it cool in the room he was in.
She doesn't resist. She follows. And together, they start planning disposal. Then the most disturbing detail yet, a rope and a cinder block, prepared in advance days before.
We need to go to, when you go on our walkway, the front, the sidewalk right there, stand there and look around, see if I see any headlights or anybody out. And kind of glance around next door to see if there's any lights on or anything like that. And he told me just to wave when it was okay. So that's what I did, and opened the passenger side back door. So that's what I did. He laid James in there, and he said he already has a string, well, the rope, not string, the rope and the center block. Well, it was a brick. Well, it was like a big block like this. It didn't have holes in it. He made holes in it. If it's making any sense.
So it's like a paver? Is it square?
Yes.
You had to put holes in it?
Yes, and it was something like a center block, but he had to make his own holes. And he had got that. He said he had got that from a neighbor's house over a fence.
From over a fence.
This was no panic. This was planned. And Brittany? She was there for all of it. Now watch the strategy. She admits what she must, denies what she can't explain, and blames James for everything else.
So is it a tall?
It was like this long.
How thick was it?
And it was like this. And he had we had to stop the first time.
How do you put a hose in it? Do you know?
I don't know if he did it.
Do you have to use a drill? Right.
I know.
Okay.
But I know he said he had to put holes in it.
Okay.
And then he told me he's got the holes in them now. He had, see, I'm losing track. Where was I at?
Okay, you made sure the coast was clear. You
Mhm.
waved him out to the van.
Trying to open the van door.
Opened the van door.
We took off. We went straight down to Logan Street.
Mm-hmm.
Went left on Logan.
Mm-hmm.
Went straight down to the interpass. We went this way. Once he made sure the traffic was clear to hit the Cincinnati exit.
When were the ropes and the cinder block attached to James?
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Okay, sorry.
Because he's the one that did that. I didn't do that.
Right.
She didn't flinch. She didn't hesitate. With a concrete block tied to her son's small body, she threw him from the bridge. This wasn't panic. This was a choice. And it ended with a child who deserved so much more than this.
Because I can't tie worth of crap.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have done it anyway because I don't know how to do none of that.
Right.
And once again, I didn't want to just get rid of the body. I wanted to call somebody.
Right.
I wanted to do what I thought was best.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept on insisting to get rid of the body because he had bruises from James punching him everywhere.
Oh, okay.
Because if he didn't have the bruises on him and he didn't want to go to jail for the bruises or be in trouble for the bruises on the kid, I would have called and reported it right then and there when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know my ways about nothing, so
Right.
he said it wasn't advised for me to drive anywhere, and I was like, I don't know where I'm doing nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
he drove the van even after he stopped to wrap him up.
Right.
And he was driving the whole time, even to go back home.
Okay.
We had stopped to wrap the body up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we stopped, he wrapped the body up. I didn't wrap it up.
All right.
I was waiting for him to get done. You told me to try to duck down, I guess, so nobody would see a shadow in the car or something from the headlights.
Mm-hmm.
Told me to duck down to make it seem like there's nobody in here, the car is abandoned. So that's what I've done. And we went to go head up to the bridge. We went to that next exit. We went back. Got off that next exit, went back on to get back on the, I guess highway would it be?
Yeah.
Highway, to go back to the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he had stopped, like, because I showed the bridge don't have nowhere you can just pull over off to the side.
Yeah, it's kind of skinny, isn't it?
Yeah, and he had stopped, I mean, like halfway down the road before the bridge, where it started cutting off. To wait till traffic was clear, he turned off the headlights, same thing again.
Right.
Waited for traffic to be clear, and took off flying to the middle of the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Stopped to the middle of the bridge, told me to get out, hurry up and open the back passenger side door, and I was to grab his feet and help him toss the child over, and he grabbed the top half, and he was in the driver's seat, walked in between the two seats up front, grabbed his head, and he had got out too, because we were standing like this, basically, to toss him over. And I heard we tossed him over, I heard the splat because of the brick being heavy.
Right.
And now, the polygraph is waiting. So is the truth. Subscribe now for part 3. We'll be breaking it down in detail, moment by moment. And we're also releasing the full interview with minimal interruptions, for those who want to watch it from start to end and hear it all for themselves. because sadly, there's still so much more to this story. But little James Hutchinson deserves to be remembered. And if telling his story can save even one child from a fate like his, then we owe him that much.